Hey everyone, I have an idea. How about we start a podcast? But instead of the normal format of podcasts where you have just like one or two people speaking for hours, we're going instead to look at what truly matters, lots of coins. On each episode, I'll explore a different online collection of ancient coins. I think making your coins available for the public like this, with high-resolution images or video, is a wonderful way of contributing to the overall corpus of numismatic material online, providing visual material for new collectors, and it's just a great way to be known in the numismatic community. And the first collection we're looking at today is the Artemis Collection. The gentleman who owns this collection is an old friend of the channel. He provided some of the first videos of truly beautiful coins. At a time, all I had to show was a handful of coins, and he made a wonderful website. I'll dare say what he has made here has become the reference for what a private collection website must have. I'll leave, of course, a link to his page in the video description if you want to have a look by yourself later, but let's explore this great collection together now. He has high-resolution images, 3D turntables of his coins, an ultra zoom mode. There's a lot of really cool stuff to look at today. So yeah, join me as we explore his collection. His personal focus is on classical and Hellenistic coins, in particular anything related to Alexander the Great, but he also has a few nice archaic, classical, and Roman coins as well. Quite a few rarities and lots of interesting types, so let's jump right in. Now, I know myself and I'm an absolute sucker for anything in 3D, so let's just start with these amazing 360-degree photos. Let's pick a nice example for us to look at. Oh, wow, check this out, the Ptolemy elephant tetradrachma. So this is one of like the simplest, quote-unquote, ways of showing a coin in 3D, which is actually not really 3D. It's a series of pictures of a coin on a table, and you make this collage of pictures where you can just rotate the coin around, and it gives you this wonderful effect where you're like looking at the coin and you're handling it. And as you can see, what a wonderful example of one of Ptolemy's Alexander posthumous coins. You can see the face of Alexander wearing the elephant headdress, symbolizing his victories in Asia and in the Indian frontier. And on the reverse, we have Athena. We have Athena the protector, ready for battle, ready to protect the Greek people. Such a wonderful coin. Let's see if we have some other cool coin to show in 360, particularly something with a very, very high relief. I mean, the obvious choice is generally the Athenian tetradrachma, but I want to look at some other examples. Oh, these two should be cool. The Theban stater and the Aegina stater. These are both coins that are, yeah, see? It's almost like a pellet of silver. How awesome, right? These are some very early archaic Greek coins. As you can see, it is pretty much a ball of silver with an incus sponge on the reverse and a little turtle on the obverse. As the years go by, the design on the turtle shifts, and for some reason they switch at some point from a sea turtle to a land tortoise. Yeah, the stater is also, it's a much later coin, but it's also incredibly thick, and the shape of the shield, of the Theban shield on the obverse, makes it even thicker. It actually gives it this concave look, because on the reverse, where we have this vase, it gets this concave shape, so it's another very charming coin. You can see that they even had some decorations over here which were erased due to the very gentle wear that this coin has. So we're gonna look at Let's have a look at something with a test cut. Oh, these Cilician staters are really cool as well. There's a section on these staters that we will look at shortly, which is really interesting. As you can see, we have the Baal, the Persian interpretation of Zeus, sitting on his throne with his eagle, very similar to what we see on Greek coins. In the reverse, we have the lion bouncing over the bull in some Aramaic legends. Wonderful coin, very dramatic looking. And as you can see, super deep test cut over here. Someone was suspicious that this coin had a copper core, so they just whacked it in here. And it looks like it is silver all the way to the core. Let's see what else we have. Of course, we have to look at an Athenian tetradrachma, right? So let's do it. This is one of the mass issue owls. These are some of the most common types of Athenian owls around the time of the War of the Peloponnesian, right when Athens was at the height of its power. Super high relief. Look at Athena looking at us. Although her eyes are not in perspective as her face is, they're not to the side, they're facing forward, like towards you, the viewer. This is sort of like a remnant of the archaic style of making coins. And a later type of tetradrachma, struck after Athens lost the Peloponnesian War, you will see that this eye changes to an eye with a proper perspective. And of course, on the reverse, we have the super charming owl with its bulging eyes looking at us. The olive branch with a little olive over here, the symbol of the gift that Athena gave to the city of Athens, the first olive tree. This little moon here, which some people say represents a victory over the Persians. And of course, we have the letters Alpha, Theta, Epsilon, from Athenaion, meaning coin of the Athenians, from the Athenians. Such a wonderful coin, a must-have for any Greek coin collector. Now, since he focuses on Alexander's coins primarily, he answers one of the key questions that any aspiring Alexander collector has, which is how to identify lifetime from posthumous Alexander pieces, because of course Alexander issued this very famous type with Heracles and Zeus during his reign, but of course, since he was so important and this type of coin became so famous, it kept being struck on his name, sort of like imitations on his name for centuries, up to the 2nd century BC. So the only real way to distinguish one coin from the other is through a catalog such as Price, Jessup Price. Some people use the little cheat where like you have Zeus with the uncrossed legs, this is a lifetime, and when he has crossed legs, it is a posthumous coin. Don't do it. This is there are exceptions. This does not work, but yeah, he has made 2 separate sections of like Alexander type tetradrachmas for the posthumous issues and actual Alexander lifetime mints. So this is an interesting part to explore. So yeah, let's have a look at some lifetime issues. Let's see at any type that calls our attention. Oh, this one immediately calls my attention. This one is from Cyprus. We have a particularly buff Zeus. Very interesting. Let's see the ultra zoom feature where we can see this coin really up close. So we can see in this one, there's actually a remarkable level of detail on Zeus's face. I mean, the tetradrachma is a big coin, but make no mistake, like his head, that's tiny. So these details, like the eye, the nose, all of that, that required a lot of attention from the die engraver. Yeah, we have a particularly small ego in this example. We have a bow as a mint mark. Alexandros squeezed to the right. Nice chunky throne without a backrest. Some of them do have like a little backrest over here. And we have Hercules over here with this very jolly portrait. Some people say this is actually Alexander, but I'll later get to a point why I think this is not Alexander. This is actually Heracles. Here we have the Nemean lion. You can actually see like his nose over here. Then the part where its eye was supposed to be, his little ear poking through here. His big mane. And over here, oh yeah, the back of his jaw was like split in half. So you have some of his jaw going over here, and you have his little teeth over here. And as you go down here, its paws are tied to a knot next to Heracles' neck, as to, you know, keep the whole thing on his head. Lovely coin, full of detail, and it's another type of coin that can have a very high relief. Some types don't have a very high relief, some of them are kind of flat. Sadly, my lifetime Alexander Tat is very flat. It's a relatively early issue, but sadly it's not very expressive like these ones. Shall we look at another one? Alright, let's see, what do we have over here? Do we have one from the Greek mainland? Let's have a look. This one is from... no, I need to click it. Phoenicia. Oh, there it goes. Aigai, Macedon. No, come back. Oh well, Amphipolis. That works as well. That's actually the mint from the example I have, although this one is much nicer. Let's give it an ultra zoom as well. 333 to 326. Quite early piece. You can see a sign of the Amphipolis mint are these like less realistic mains. They're like a kind of flat. No, they're not exactly flat. They're just, you know, repeated. It's like a pattern. They don't look like they're actual flocks of hair. Although this piece has a lovely rainbow toning for me all over the design. Check this out. Another really nice coin. And on the reverse, that's nice. We have the prow of a ship as a little mint mark. A little bit of a stockier Zeus. And he has his palm completely open and the eagle's perched on it. I love the zoom feature. Check this out. See how close we can get from the surface of the coin. You can really see lots of details and some of the quirky little details that the die engravers put on their coins. It's really fascinating. Just check this out. See, like the flow lines when the hot silver was struck and the metal quickly displaced outwards. You can clearly see the direction of the striker radiating outwards, especially here on the head. This is one of the first signs you look for at a coin when you want to make sure, for example, it's not a cast fake. I don't think I've ever seen a cast coin having flow lines because, of course, it's a completely different way of making the coin. By striking it, you have a quick displacement of material, while when you cast something, it's a slow pouring in of material, filling up the gaps, the negative spaces, so it doesn't have this displacement effect. Okay, a really charming example. Maybe we should go to some posthumous pieces, right? All right, Alexander type tetradrachmas. Let's see what calls our attention here. This seems like a relatively early... yeah, this is posthumous. Oh, this is from Pella. This is from the Macedonian capital. Really nice. Very nice. Come back here. Very nice style in this one. Check this out. You can see, like, in the eyes, you actually have the pupil and that little palette over here, which isn't exactly realistic, but it helps at the distance to make the effect that you have an eye. Really nice. Very interesting flocks of hair, all of them in a different direction. You can see this is a completely different style to that of Amphipolis. Much fuller, much more well-balanced design. Although there's some higher quality dies out there, but this is still a very nice one. And on the reverse, we have a very aesthetically pleasing Zeus. Like, his proportions are actually quite nice. This throne actually has a backrest. You can see it over here. The mint mark is a little thunderbolt. His hand in this one is rendered a little bit better. You can actually see his fingers bending. These two have fused together probably by a little bit of wear, but you can see his fingers bending in different directions. Small details like this separate a nice coin from a truly remarkable coin. And of course, you have the Alexandro over here. Lovely, lovely. Let's see what else we have. Let's check it out. Let's find something let's find something very late. Something much later. This one, see? This is a much later example from Bithynia. See, 260 to 220s BC. It's like over 100 years after the death of Alexander. And as you can see, it is a copy, quote unquote, of the Alexander type, but it is a very different style, very different portrait. This one is much more in line with what you find in portraits of the Hellenistic period as far as style goes. The portrait of Zeus is very different. Let's actually go in the ultra zoom feature. Lots of control marks in this one. We have a little theta over here. We have a wheat stalk at the bottom. We have a couple of monograms. And we also have a basileus over here as well. Really interesting rendering of the headdress. See, that is a sign of a good, high quality engraving. Check out this mane. It's not just like some flocks of hair put one after the other. This is like a continuous stream of flocks of hair falling down the back of his head. Very charming coin. Check out these very dramatic flow lines. A couple of scratches, but I mean, you can expect things to be scratched when they are 2,000 years old, I guess. All right, let's keep going. What else do we have? What else do we have? Oh, this is an even later example. 175 BC. That's from Thrace. 34 millimeters. That's another characteristic of later Alexander posthumous times. As time goes on, they become wider. They become wider. They begin at like 25, 26 millimeters typically, and by the end they're like 34 millimeters, 35 millimeters. They're very impressive, big coins. And as you can see, this is a completely different style. Have a look at the ultra zoom. This is an interesting coin as well. Check out, very different. You know what? This portrait looks like Mithridates or some later, much later, Hellenistic kings. You can see that the style has evolved in a very different direction compared to the early Hellenistic portraits of Heracles. Over here, the skin of the Nemean lion, it almost fuses with the hair. It's quite interesting. It's quite a different looking one. And over here in the Zeus, we have this Zeus is a little bit malnourished, sadly. And we also have an abbreviation over here. Diosk. Yeah, this must be the abbreviation of some kind of magistrate, probably responsible for the issue of this coin at the city. Very, very charming. Another really cool side collection that he has is of these lion staters of Babylon. You see, as Alexander invaded the Persian Empire, they had a different monetary standard. In fact, the Achaemenid king was particularly condescending, liberal, with allowing his many subjects to have different monetary standards. So one of the monetary standards that existed and was very important in his kingdom was the Babylonian one. So the main type of silver coin from Babylon were these staters featuring the image of Baal, and on the reverse this wonderful Persian lion walking to the left. And these were struck before the arrival of Alexander, so under Persian rule. They were struck during Alexander's time. So for example, this one, 328 to 323 BC, this was under Alexander already. And even after Alexander's death, under the Seleucids, actually, if we look over here, like for example, these types, see, this is one struck under Seleucid control. You can even see, this looks like a little countermark. We have a countermark with the anchor, the Seleucid anchor, showing, although Alexander used a different weight standard, he used the Attic standard, he still allowed certain coins which were well accepted in certain regions to be issued, like these. The Seleucids would eventually, early in their tenure, around the 300s BC, they would abolish this standard, and then they would only issue coins in the Attic standard, which will become the standard used for coins all throughout the Hellenistic period. Even later during Roman times with certain adaptations. Another very interesting type are the staters issued in Cilicia. Cilicia is a region on what is today southeastern Turkey, very prosperous region, very strategically located next to a lot of trade routes which connected the Mediterranean to the Middle East. So this was a region that issued a lot of coins. It issued coins for centuries under Achaemenid rule, and then of course under Alexander, and its design actually changed quite a lot. As you can see, we have quite a few different examples. Like for example, this is a very famous type with under Pharnabazus, one of the satraps under the Persians. And some say this is one of the types that inspired Alexander to adopt the image of Zeus sitting on his throne on his coins, which actually makes some sense if you think about it. Alexander had an idea. He didn't exactly think that Greeks should be the absolute hegemonic power over everything. He wanted his empire to be this mix between the Persians and the Greeks, and his coins reflect that. His image of Zeus in his coins are a clear imitation of these earlier Baal types, although on the obverse he will keep the image of Heracles, which was the protector god of his dynasty. So okay, in any case, back to this coin, we have this lovely portrait of Baal sitting on his throne with some Aramaic legends, and on the reverse, also very charming. Some people call this image one of Ares, the god of war, but of course this Ares is a Greek god, and we're talking about a Persian warrior over here, or maybe a Persian god or something. Or this could be Ares as well. There would have been a sizable Greek presence in the region, so it would make sense to see such a design on a coin. Lovely, look at that, look at the details. This deserves to go in the Ultrazone. Let's have a look at it in closer detail. Wonderful red golden toning forming all around the devices, which is very fitting for a god of war to be seen in details of red, little splatters of blood. Very nice classical style of bust. Very charming, just overall a very nice type of portrait. Let's take a look at other satrapal issues. We have these ones as well, which feature the Baal over here, although this is with a slightly worn bust. And we have this very violent scene of the Persian lion bouncing over. That's interesting. This one is a stag. Typically, the lion is bouncing over a bull, but over here they changed it for a stag. What else that we have? Oh, this one is awesome. So we have Baal once again with his scepter, massive issuing mark with a wheat stalk, and over here we have the walls of Tarsos at the bottom. Incredible. The club of Heracles, and then we have the lion submitting the bow, just bending his front paws. Amazing, full of character. What a lovely coin. Let's see what else. This is definitely a post-Alexander coin. Then we see Hellenism imposing itself with the triumphant image facing portrait of Athena over here. Lovely. You can really see Tarsus is a really nice example where you can see a lot of flexibility in the designs. You can see that as it changes hands, as satraps come and go, the designs also change. So for the time, it's actually a very, very fluid mint. It changes the designs quite often, so it's quite nice. And it also received this massive test cut to see if this was good silver, which indicates this coin must have traveled a little bit, and it must have crossed some borders, and people wanted to check if it was silver. Amazing sub collection over here. Now, another city which, on the contrary, did not change its design a whole lot was Aspendos. Aspendos is another ancient city located on what is southern Turkey, and it was also under the rule of the Persians before being conquered by Alexander. But as you can see, its design did not change. It typically shows on the obverse fighting scene, their wrestling is like a couple of wrestlers, and on the reverse we have this linger. But what is interesting about this type is, since they kept the main types for so long, but as the years go by, they start issuing these like in the early classical period. Actually, I think they started these in the archaic period, all the way into the Hellenistic period. You see the evolution of the typical Greek style of engraving on coins manifest in these coins. So for example, if we take a look at an early example like this one, you have, so for example, these ones are for 420 and 410 BC. So this is relatively early classical style. It actually even looks archaic in its style. Like we have a relatively stiff image. The legs and the feet, they don't bend a whole lot. Everything is a little bit blocky. It's a little bit, the obverse die is a little bit worn, but actually there's a reasonable level of flexibility here. But there, as you see in later examples, this looks relatively stiff. So for example, let's go for a later classical piece. What do we have over here? These ones are from 400s to 325. Here we can see a clear change in style. This is much more dynamic in nature. We have clothes, they move with the wind. You actually, instead of the arm being almost like blocky, you actually have a division between the forearm and the arm and the shoulders over here. Some very thick legs. The same thing for the wrestlers. You can actually see like the back muscles stretching and connecting to the shoulder muscles. So you have an evolution in style very typical to what you would expect from the classical period proper. What else do we have? Plenty of wonderful examples. Look at this one. This one is very different. Wow, check this one out. This one we even have a little... Is this considered the mint mark? Probably. Wow, there's a little Athena observing this linger. Really nice. It almost steals the show, right? It's supposed to be this linger, the center of attention, but the focus of my gaze was immediately drawn to Athena rather than this linger. And over here you see we would once again have actual detailed musculature of the wrestlers. This is a much more typical thing you would find in classical. coin design. And then maybe we can let's look at a late classical and the Hellenistic type. This one is clearly Hellenistic. There. Then we see this late classical, more like early Hellenistic. I mean, this one wasn't made by such an inspired engraver. You can see that this one does, despite the wear, you can see that it doesn't have the same level of detail and attention to the musculature, which in a way is a sign of the Hellenistic period. There is a certain, at least in my opinion, there's a certain, but let's put it this way: engraving quality in the Hellenistic period is not as good as in the classical period. Classical coins really have a charm, like the truly good die engravers from the classical period. There's nothing like it. Let's have a look at this one. Wait, let's go to the ultra zoom, which will allow us to have a look at this one. These are very late staters, 250s BC. That's very late. As you can see, you can see that the style, it's similar in a way to the classical style, in the way that we have more, the image flows a little bit better. You have the folds and the clothes. You have the clothes like tunic over here. You can clearly see the volume of his legs covering his actual legs. It's just not as expressive as the classical coins. On the obverse, sadly, the dies are worn, so we can't see much of the details of the musculature, but you can see that it is still a very well accomplished coin. In this one, we have the name of a magistrate over here, and we also have quite a few control marks. The triskeles generally is always there, but in this case, it uses the Club of Hercules. Well, still, although it doesn't have the charm of the classical coins, still a very nice coin style-wise. Now, under his Alexander section, there's this page also called Foundations and Legacy, which has two very interesting coins. I mean, all coins are interesting, but check out these two. So this is a stater issued by Amyntas III. He was the grandfather of Alexander the Great, the father of Philip II. And as you can see, we have the portrait of Hercules. Well, Heracles in this case. We're not talking about the Roman one. This is Heracles. We have the portrait of Heracles, although this one is a little bit different. It has a bearded portrait. So this is where the argument that the tetradrachma from Alexander, the ones with Heracles' face, is actually Alexander, because Heracles is typically a bearded man. He's much more like, he's older looking, he's more aggressive, while the one in Alexander's coins looks much younger, looks kind of fresh. Alexander was very young when he was conquering the known world, so they basically connect this idea that these were supposed to be the image of Alexander in these coins. However, if we look at this other very worn die oboe, also from Amyntas, such a shame that this is so worn, but I mean, these coins are incredibly rare. As you can see, it is clean-shaven Heracles, just like the coins from the much later coins from Alexander. So for me, this coin is evidence that what we have in Alexander's coin is indeed not the image of Alexander, and it's just the image of Heracles. But I don't know, you might have a different opinion, and if you do, make sure to let us know in the comment section. Then, of course, we have a nice section on Alexander's successors. So you know, Alexander died a sudden and very surprising death in 323 in Babylon. Everyone was taken by surprise. Everyone started fighting for his massive empire, and his empire was splintered in what we call the Diadochi, the successor states. And each state eventually developed into its own coinage tradition, with its own portraits, with its own style. And here he has a little side collection with some examples. Of course, we have the very famous Lysimachus tetradrachma with the portrait of Alexander. This one is actually Alexander with the horn of Ammon Zeus, his wild flocks of hair, one of the most famous types of ancient coins, and that lovely image of Athena seated on her throne guarding the Greek people. Lovely portrait. It's kind of busty here. Big shield and spear right next to her, so she's ready to, pick up arms and defend the Greek people. She has the little Nike next to her, and we start seeing the name of other kings rather than Alexander. So over here we have Basileus Lysimaco, king Lysimachus. We have a very interesting and quite rare tetradrachma of Seleucus from the Seleucid Empire, the largest and probably most powerful of the successor states. So you have the helmeted image of probably Seleucus, but some say it's Alexander here. Actually, I think it's Alexander because it has horns coming out of here, so this is the deified Alexander, most likely, with this nice helmet ready for battle. And on the reverse, a winged Nike erecting a tropaion, a battle trophy with the arms and armor of the vanquished enemies. And the nice Seleuco here from Seleucus. What else? Philip III. Oh, poor Philip. He was the half-brother of Alexander. He was probably mentally handicapped. That's why he never received any real responsibility, but he was the most obvious successor after Alexander's death. So the first coins immediately after Alexander's death. Some have Alexander's name, others, like this one, straight up have Filippo from Philip on the reverse. The rest of the design is completely indistinguishable from the Alexander types. And see, here's an example of a Zeus with uncrossed legs, but this is obviously a posthumous coin because it's from Philip III. So yeah, don't fall for that crossed legs, posthumous, uncrossed legs lifetime thing. That's not how numismatics works, guys. What else do we have? Well, we have Attalos from Pergamon, another important successor kingdom much later. We also have the image of Athena on her throne and the very jowly bust of Philetairo, the founder of the dynasty. What else do we have? We have a whole lot of other Alexander types. This one was made under Seleucus, so he also issued coins on the types of Alexander, although this one already has his name. He is Basileus Seleuco. Oh, this is from Antioch, my favorite mint. As you can see, lovely style here. What else do we have? We have another Lysimachus. This one, I think this is a posthumous one. Oh, of course, Ptolemy. Oh, this is actually Ptolemy III. This is a Phoenician piece, but all of the coins of the Ptolemies, all the way to Cleopatra, with some very rare exceptions. The vast majority just have the portrait of Ptolemy I. Ptolemy I, the eagle, a series of control marks and mint marks, and the legends are generally either Ptolemaio Basileus or Ptolemaio Suthros, and Ptolemy the savior, or in the other case, Ptolemy the king, or of King Ptolemy. And this is what we've shown previously. This was this is a relatively rare type issued just after Alexander's death, when Ptolemy became king of Egypt. This is actually a relatively later one from the 310s, but this type sadly wasn't struck for a very long time. And this one, oh, this is actually Ptolemy I, Alexandria mint. Interestingly, is this just like a control mark or a banker's mark? Yeah, that would be it would be interesting if this was some sort of control mark from another monetary entity, from another country, because you see, Egyptian coins were not supposed to leave Egypt. They were supposed to be exchanged at the border, and that's one way where the Ptolemies charged the fee, and that's how they financed themselves with silver, because Egypt was very poor in silver. So to see a coin with actual control marks or some marks showing that they were exported from Egypt is fairly rare and fairly interesting, because it means these coins were smuggled out of Egypt. They're not supposed to be exported. Yeah, lovely little side collection there. Now, how about some non-Greek coins? Check out this lovely shekel from Phoenicia. The Phoenician cities were under Persian rule as well, but they were allowed to issue their own coins from their own standards. So you can see this is a shekel. And what a lovely little thing. It's just full of character. So of course the Phoenicians were very well accomplished seafarers. So of course they had to have sea symbols on their coins. So you have a war galley with 3 little hoplites embarked on it. You have the sea waves and a row here. Actually, this is to control the ship. Under it, you have this wonderful hippocamp. Here, very fierce. Look at its face. It's not messing around. And another interesting thing is we have a murex shell over here. Now, if you don't know what the murex is, so what they did is they extracted the little snail out of the shell, and they would grind it to a pulp, and it would produce this very deep purple color. And they would use this to make a dye. And this was the coloring agent they used to dye the capes of like Roman emperors, triumphant generals. But the thing is, this was a painstaking process. It required a lot of these little murex shells to be collected, and it was incredibly expensive. So of course this was a very lucrative business for the Phoenicians. So of course they're gonna put it in their money. And on the reverse, we once again in good Persian style to show that they were subjects of the Persians. You have once more the Persian lion just mauling some poor antelope or some poor animal over here. And we can actually see the name of the Phoenician king of this city. Here, Osbal, king of Gebal, in Phoenician above. Lovely coin. Now, here's a coin that looks Greek, but isn't. This is a Carthaginian tetradrachma, struck in Entella, in Sicily. So you know that Sicily was this battleground for centuries between the Greeks and the Carthaginians, and the Carthaginians used a lot of mercenaries. They used a lot of Greek mercenaries as well. So one of the coins that circulated the Mediterranean, all over the Mediterranean, of course, was the Alexander type. So the Carthaginians, they decided to use the Heracles. Well, in this case it's Heracles, it's not the Carthaginian Melkart. They used Heracles on the obverse, but they mixed it with a typical Carthaginian design, which is the horse on the reverse. So you have the horse and the other Carthaginian symbol, the date tree, with some inscriptions in Punic underneath. This is a very interesting type, which it is a total mix. So you have a fully Greek side and a fully Carthaginian side. It's such a fascinating coin. I would love to add one of these to my collection, but sadly these are very expensive. Next, of course, I had to show some Roman coins. I'm not gonna speak about Greek coins all that time and not switch to Romans, which is my focus. So yeah, and we start strong with a Julius Caesar, and not any simple Julius Caesar. This is a portrait Julius Caesar from a lifetime Julius Caesar. So this is the first Roman who dared to put his living portrait on a coin. This was probably one of the reasons why the other senators thought he was going too far and decided to kill him. And as you can see, this kind of portrait is what we will eventually be seen in imperial portraits. So this example is a little bit worn, but as you can see, you have like the laurel wreath over here. So you have his head over here, his ear, that's the back of his head. You have his face over here, well, that part is clearly distinguishable. His neck going down over here, and we have Caesar Imperator. So amazing. And on the reverse, we have Venus, the patron goddess of the Julii family. They said they were descendants from Venus. We start really strong. It's gonna be hard to get something cooler than this. But of course, there are other very cool coins here, like for example, this amazing emerald green sestertius of Emperor Hadrian. Let's look at this up close. Check this out here, where the patina chipped. Like this is an older patina and this is a newer patina, and they patinated in different colors. So you have this much older, darker, thicker patina, and at the top part you have this slimy green one. It's fascinating, but it's still a coin in a remarkable state of preservation. Just look at that portrait. Adrianus Augustus consul tertium pater patriae. And on the reverse we have Felicitas. Lovely coin holding a I think this is a wheat stalk, and the caduceus, the symbol of commerce. And of course we have the SC, Senatus Consulto, indicating this coin was issued by the Roman Senate and was meant to be accepted as money by law, although this coin did not have any precious metal content in it. Here's another very interesting type. This is a tetradrachma struck by Trajan in Antioch. Now, what is cool about this coin is not necessarily being a Trajan tetradrachma. Trajan issued a lot of tetradrachma to finance his campaign against the Parthians, but this type with the bust of Melkart on the reverse is literally the descendant of the famous Tyre shekel, the 30 pieces of silver that Judas received as a bribe to betray Jesus. This is sort of like the successor of that coin. Of course, it doesn't have the same level of silver purity compared to these earlier coins, but it was probably a well-known type in the region, and Trajan picked this type to be put on his coins. It's probably my favorite of all of the issues by Trajan in Antioch, but sadly it tends also to be the most expensive type. These are the most common types, the one featuring the eagle over the either leg of an animal, or in this case the club of Heracles, which is also a very charming type. This is the later portrait of Trajan. This one was right after his campaign against the Parthians. What else we have? Oh, you know what? That coin from Agrippa, we can see this one on 3D. 360 photos. Remember, this is one of the ones I like the most from his 3D. There it goes. Because it has this crazy two-colored patina. Check this out. It's red on this side with this bust of... It's a shame that I can't spin it around. But it's Neptune. It's the god of the sea. You see his trident over here. And over here we have this emerald green bust of Agrippa. Very, very angry, very down to business with the rostral crown. You can see the tip of the rostra of the ship. This was one of the many decorations given to him by Augustus, his best friend and boss, so to speak. Augustus would not have become Augustus, the first emperor, without the help of Agrippa. Agrippa was the brute force that Augustus didn't have. He was a much better general. He was much more proactive with the troops, while Augustus was more of a politician, of a senator, and Agrippa, he really needed the muscle and the intelligence of Agrippa. Agrippa was another very intelligent man to help him achieve what he achieved. What else we have? We have this very dramatic, deep patinated red blood coin of Aurelian. When these coins came out of the mint, they would have looked like silver. They were silvered. But this coin did not only lose all of its silvering, it also lost its patina underneath, giving us this red, dramatic look to it. Fortunately, it didn't damage the coin, the fact that it was depatinated, because it is starting to patinate once more. We can see like these darker parts forming once again. Still, it gives this very dramatic effect to the coin, you know, like the flan crack, the red face, the red image of soul. This is, when I first saw this coin, I was like, wow, this came straight from hell, you know. What else do you have? So many cool Roman coins as well. Let's wrap this up with this one from Sulla. So, you know, Sulla, very authoritarian general during the late Republican period. He was one of the strong men that led to the eventual downfall of the Republic. And he issued a lot of denarii when he was marching on Rome. So this is an example of one of his denarii minted in one of his military mints to pay for his troops as they were marching on Rome. Typically during the Republican period, if you wanted to issue silver coins, if you were, for example, a general on campaign and you wanted to finance the army, you had to ask permission for the state, or even better, the state, the Senate was the one responsible for issuing silver coins, and they would give you a budget for you to pay for the armies to conduct whatever Rome thought it was best. And during this time, these strongmen, these generals, just started issuing coins on their own accord. So as you can see, like this one, it is issued by a proquestor, Lucius Manlius Torquatus, and Sulla just was one of the first of these generals to simply start striking coins without the Senate's permission. And this would eventually lead to the complete anarchy of the two civil wars that led to the end of the Roman Republic. So yeah, I think I've been showing coins and looking at the collection for nearly an hour. There's a lot more to look at this page. There's really a lot. You can spend hours in this wonderful page. Like, for example, there's a series of articles on how to clean coins. I admit I do not have the patience to, and I don't want to risk my coins in cleaning them because I'm a little bit clumsy. But as you can see, they have like some examples of before and after, and what the owner of the page did in his recipe, like cotton swab, toothpick, ammonium thiosulfate. I particularly don't get into it, but of course this is a very complete tutorial page where you can look at and try for yourself. See how dirty that Athenian tetradrachma was, and it improved quite dramatically. There are also some other cool things on his page. Check this out, this Artemis Collection map. So he has made a map with all of the coins featured in his collection and where they're from. Another amazing little feature. And depending on how big the circle is, the larger the number of coins in his collection that come from that area. Pretty amazing. The coin timeline diameter. Like, this page is just ridiculous. There's so much stuff. Check this out. Like a huge timeline with all of the coins in the collection going all the way from the 500s BC, right around the birth of coinage. Well, like 150 years after the birth of coinage, all the way to the last coin of the collection, Paulus of Constantius II, around the 350s AD. So it's a page where you can just lose hours upon hours in this page. You see, photographing the collection, he has tutorials on how to light up your shots, different types of cameras and lenses, focus stacking, which is like the technique where he achieves these very where he uses a macro photography, but he uses different points of focus, so you have a fully focused image made out of different images and different focuses. How to post-process images. This is really a treasure for beginner collectors who want to get exposure to ancient coin collector, and even experienced collectors. There's something here for everyone. So yeah, just make sure to have a look if you're interested. If you have a website with your collection and you would like it to be featured in these little podcasts, let me know in the comment section below, and we'll have a chat, and I'll see if I can have a look at your collection. So yeah, once again, thank you very much for the Artemis Collection for participating in this podcast project. I hope this is enjoyable for my audience. If it is, I will continue doing it. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Go have a look at the Artemis Collection, and I'll see you soon.